Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're back on the Parallax speakers and we're going to do some quick testing. Now, sorry for the bad angle, but I'm set up in a room I don't normally film in, so we're going to try to film this. Normally we're supposed to do these outside. It's like 20 degrees outside. I'm not going to do it outside. Maybe when the weather gets a little better we'll do this again outside, but I want to test these the old-fashioned way, and let me show you what I'm talking about. We have our Radio Shack sound level meter here. And we have it set up perpendicular to our audio source, the Parallax speakers. And I am using the test procedure from the old David Weems book. Let me get that in there for you. Great Sound Stereo Speaker Manual. And what it says to do is set up your SLM perpendicular to your speaker about a foot or two away and go through various frequency responses and create a graph. So what I've done is I've done a test tone to get about a 0 dB reading on the sound level meter using 1000 hertz as a test. And I just kind of made some numbers up here just to try to get a plot. Now I probably should do this with more numbers in between. I went from 800 to 1.6K to 2K to 4K to 6K. I'd love to hear your suggestions on that, but in order to do this and be done with it tonight, this is what I came up with. So what I'll do is I'll play a test tone of each, and then I'll plot it on where it lands in relation to 0, which is where my baseline is. And then we'll see what the entire frequency response of the speaker is. Now, I originally was using audiotest.net. I'm sorry, audiocheck.net to run my 1000 hertz test file. But here I can plug each frequency in and download a WAV file and play it. But I just want to use like a tone generator. So I found this other website, and I'll link to this in the description. But I can set my tone here, like say I want to go down to 50. Well, that's going to be tough to get right on the money. Like say, okay, let's say we start at 20, right? I think that's what I had on my graph. I don't know if it'll even be able to pick anything up at 20, but that was my start. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run through my graph, and I'm going to play each tone that I have right here. Whoa, sorry, right here on my graph. And then I'm going to plot it. And then we'll go over to the desk camera or to the table or something and take a look at this. And now I can't talk when I'm taking the test because it influences the meter. But here are my meter settings. And you can see it move as I'm talking. I have it set to a fast response and C weighting, which I believe is for the speaker test. I believe I saw that in my manual. Let me just double check. Okay, so here is the weighting and the response. So selector has two settings, slow and fast. The meter reacts quickly to changes in the sound level, showing you the peak sound levels present in the environment in the slow position. The meter is damped and indicates average value sound level. So we don't want an average. We want to kind of see it. We want to see it go kind of what it really is. Yeah, it says if the sound source you want to measure consists of short bursts, or if you want to measure only peak values, set response to slow. If you want to measure average sound levels. See if you want to measure sound levels of musical materials. So we don't want to measure noise level, but more musical materials. Okay, so let's, I think we're good there. If I remember right, we're going to set, we've got our, let me make sure you guys can see that. We've got our range set to 70, and I'm going to play a 1000 hertz test tone, and we'll get it to 0. All right, that's slightly above 0, so I think we're close. Let me stop this test tone. Okay guys, can you see this okay? It may be hard to see my writing from here, but here's my 20, 50, 100, 200, 400, 800, 1.6K or 1600, 2000, 4000, 6000, 8000, 10,000, 12,000, 15, and 20. Now I had my sound level meter set to 70 dB. I think it's 70 is the setting. I can't remember the unit of measure on that. And then I adjusted my volume where 1K, which would sit right here between 8 and 1600, was at 0. And you can see, even though this may be the most miserable frequency response graph you've seen ever, it actually at 800 it hit 0. It did well there at producing 800. When I went up to 1600, it dropped to not even readable, right? So I put it at the bottom of my graph. So let's start from the beginning. 20 hertz, I had no reading. 50 hertz, I had no reading. 50 hertz, okay, let me back up. 20 hertz, I could not hear a sound. 50 hertz, I could hear it, but it did not register on my meter. It was a very, very, very low, quiet rumble. 100 hertz actually came in at 2 dB, plus 2 dB from my baseline, which is interesting. 200, the same, plus 2 dB from my baseline. 400, I start to fall back to my baseline. I'm at 1. I was between 0 and 1. I would call it about 1 3/4 or so on 400. 800, I'm back to 0. That's my baseline. It's just so strange that I went to 1600 and I got no reading. So that must be close to where the woofer falls out. You know what? I might run back and do another test at 1000. Oh no, at 1000 I was at 0. Maybe at 1200 and see if it starts to drop off a little bit. But my guess is that's the end of my woofer. And my mid-range probably starts picking up somewhere between 16K and 2K. Because at 2K, I'm back to 0. So that is my baseline. Now when I go up to 4, bam, that must be really loud from that mid-range right there. Because I think the tweeter crosses over at 5 in this system. I'm pretty sure it does. The mid-range, I'd have to look again at the sticker. I'll do that in a minute. But 6K, I'm still loud at the top of the chart. But then, bam, all of a sudden, 8K, I don't register again. Like I just barely moved the needle. 10K, same. I hear the noises. They're just not, there's no nice continuous peak here or nice continuous flow of frequencies. 12K, nothing. I get no register. Same with 15 and 20. So I think as an experiment, our next step is to just change the crossover. And yeah, I know that my room is going to cause some issues because I'm not outside doing this in open air, and maybe I'm getting reflections that increase it here, or here or whatever, right? Like I get that, but this is just kind of a fun old-timey experiment with my sound level meter. I don't have the fancy measurement mic and the, just run a sine sweep and it can capture it on a computer like in a few seconds or whatever it takes when you see people do that online. So number one, I wanted to show how to use my sound level meter. And number two, kind of show how, David Weems from his books did it, back in the 70s and the 80s when he released these books. But let me show you what I got in store. Now, if you remember from the last video, in the current system, there's no choke on the woofer, so it's going to play until it rolls off. And looking at the back of the speaker, I'll see if I can put a picture of it, overlay it here. It says it crosses at 2500 to the mid-range, which is going to be right here, right? That's where we start getting that big peak. And 5000 for the tweeter. So that tweeter is not performing very well, is it? Now I have my L pad set to, I'll call it no value change, right? No, I didn't turn it low, I didn't turn high. Now I could have an L pad problem here, true. I do, when I exercise those L pads, I do hear a difference. So maybe not. I don't know. Love to hear what you think about that. But this is kind of cool. So here's my plan. I bought a couple of cheap crossovers on Amazon. And first one is this one. And this one crosses, it has a choke for the woofer. And this one crosses at 860 for the mid-range. So it'll choke the woofer off right about here. A little bit above 800 hertz, right? And then it will cross, so it'll let the mid-range do between 860 and 6,000. So right here. And then my tweeter would get 6,000 and above. Now, well, let's go over our next crossover first, right? Because that's my first one. And these look like just single order crossovers to me. But right now, there is no choke on the woofer, so that has to be its roll-off. Then we have these also, and these cross at, I wrote it on this little sticker. Sorry, let me pull this one in. And these cross at 960, so just before 1,000 hertz, probably about the time that woofer falls off, and 5,000. So this is what I'm thinking. And it has a choke for the woofer too, so it'll choke the woofer at 960. This woofer performs pretty well at 800. It's back to our 0, I'll call it. I'd like to put, I'll probably start with this crossover, since it goes down to 860, I said, right? Is that the right value? I'm sorry, I'm getting things mixed up. Yeah, 860 and to 6K. Now the problem is there's no way that mid-range driver can handle that, at least according to this test. So I think I might try to replace the mid-range driver when I replace this crossover in. I guess I could do this first, since I'm, going back to troubleshooting, change one thing at a time. Do this first, run another frequency test, replace the mid-range, run another one, and see how it goes. I still don't expect any improvement on this tweeter. All right, so next video, I'm going to swap the crossover. I'm going to do one more test. I'll do it over here. And to do that, I mean, that mid-range, it's got to go. It has got to go. Sorry for the noise, but I've got this cheap buyout mid-range on Parts Express. It's a sealed back, so, that's an acoustic suspension system. Looks like it's been doped up, but this one I believe the roll-off is supposed to be around 6,000 hertz, so we may end up with a dip somewhere in here. We'll see. But I think I'm going to pull that mid-range out and replace it with this one and see what we get. Now, long-term goal, I really want to put like maybe a Dayton reference mid-range in there, and I want to put the Silk Dome tweeter, which I love that Silk Dome tweeter. I don't have all those parts yet. And I, of course, want to build a custom crossover for it down the road. These are just kind of fun to test with, I think, so we can see if we get any differences with them. But, okay, so relay one more time. First, crossover change. Probably end up with the same dips without the mid-range replacement. Then I'm going to swap in this mid-range, run another test, and see if we can get any more straighter frequency between the woofer and the mid-range at least. I imagine if my tweeters are bad or just worn out, or I don't know, maybe this crossover will change that top end. We'll see. I am getting something out of the tweeters above 5K. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun experiment. Anyway, guys, this is a huge long video. Sorry. I have been working on these. I've been listening to these and playing with those L pads and trying to adjust them and get to where, they're listenable, and they are on some songs. I can tell you they don't reproduce the strings very well. There's really no detail, and it's just muddy. So, and I think we can see why here. So anyway, guys, sorry for the long video. It's been a lot of fun wrapping this one up and continuing on with crossover replacement on the next video. We'll see you guys. Thanks for watching.